turning meets fifth-generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
The COVID lockdown, however, could never have been inflicted without you aiding and abetting the crime. Children lost education. Small businesses built over a lifetime disappeared. Patients delayed cancer screenings and other medical care. Families were separated from dying relatives. Workers were ordered to accept a medical procedure or lose their jobs. Worship assembly, employment, education, and travel were restricted in the name of science. While you did not impose every restriction, you used your public authority to justify them.
I certainly understand why you needed a pardon. I certainly understand why, on the advice of counsel, you're not answering any questions, because I think it would be almost impossible for you to answer the questions truthfully without really demonstrating what you did. There are so many legitimate questions that deserve answers, and now you're not willing to provide those answers.
You lied to hundreds of millions of people amid the worst public health crisis in a century. You failed to follow your own guidance. How many families have you apologized to had to watch their loved ones die alone? You breached public trust, and now you're hiding behind a fraudulent pardon. Your legacy will not be as a man that saved America from COVID, but as a man who destroyed the public trust in America's public health institutions in exchange for 5 minutes of fame.
Dr. Fauci, did the CIA ever transfer funds to NIH under an interagency agreement?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Dr. Fauci, did the NIH ever conduct research for or in coordination with any element of the intelligence community?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment, although it pains me to do so because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress. Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end.
Who the f do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Today's edition of Human Events Daily. We're here live. Real America's Voice. Today is July 29th, 2026, Anno Domini. I can't even begin to put into words what I just watched this morning, watching the Anthony Fauci hearings. This guy looks guilty as hell. He is guilty as hell. And in a serious country, this man would be locked up. But let me tell you something, folks. Let me tell you something right now. If the Democrats come back in power, Anthony Fauci and men like Anthony Fauci will be in charge of your government once again. Let me be very clear about that. If the Democrats get back in power, they will put Anthony Fauci and men and women like Anthony Fauci and Dr. Birx back in charge of your life once again. And this time around, they are going to go for total government control. Surveillance, digital IDs, locking people up, hauling you away with police for going to church, for being at your kid's football game. I want to say that again. They will arrest you for going to church in the United States of America. Churches were closed and liquor stores were left open. We understand what this is about. We understand what the stakes are. And men like Anthony Fauci, spineless, sniveling worms like Anthony Fauci, are going to sit there with a little smirk on his face and say that it's your fault for not giving him more power. It's your fault for being upset with it. It's your fault for not genuflecting at his feet, genuflecting for the church of Fauci, genuflecting at the altar of the state, genuflecting and giving the sign of Fauci every time his name graces your lips. Peace be upon him. Peace be upon him. Peace be upon him. And bowing your head to your chest. Communists always do this when they get in charge. Communists always run roughshod over your civil liberties, over your freedoms, and they do it because it gives them glee. It makes them excited. It gives them a thrill up their leg. They get money, they get fame, they get power, and you get dead. You, your family, your children, if you don't comply, if you don't walk in lockstep, then the gulag is your best bet. Because guess what comes after that? The mass graves. We'll be right back. Jack Posobiec, Human Events Daily.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel and take Go Pills to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
Go Pills and Soldier Fuel locked in.
Go Pills are packed with neurotransmitter support. Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Mic on, lights up. Soldier Fuel keeps me dialed right in.
Both are used by the U.S. military every day.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
And they're now available to you.
This is huge.
Scan the QR codes below and order your supply today.
Hear that pop? So good.
Go to buysoldierfuel.com or search on Amazon.
This is performance fuel. Clean energy, sharp mind. That's how we do it at RAV.
Visit buygopills.com and get 15% off automatically.
Go Pills and Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Hi, my name's Paul Foyer. I'm Foyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm Drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
Among humans, the mutations that it took to get to the point where it is now is totally consistent with a jump of a species from an animal to a human.
Are you calling for the closure of the wet markets?
I think they should shut down those things right away. I mean, it boggles my mind, because what we're going through right now is a direct result of that.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec back live, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. So we got America 250 now, and this isn't about weakness. No. We're talking about freedom, strength, greatest country in the world. Here is the crazy part. 250 years later, we're still here drinking the water that the government decided to ship us. Fluoride for your teeth, chlorine to keep things clean. Well, that's not a decision that I want someone else making for me and my family. That's why I use Cove Pure to purify my water. Over 209 million Americans are on fluoridated water right now. And here's what the science actually shows. A recent study confirmed that the fluoride exposure is linked to lower IQ scores in children. That's not a fringe study. That's from JAMA Pediatrics, one of the most respected medical journals in the world. And chlorine, that isn't even the worst part. So what happens when it reacts with natural particles in the water from plants and soil? It creates chemical byproducts called THMs, which the government itself calls probable human carcinogens, linked to the disruption of your gut and cancer. Sure, states are moving on this. Utah and Florida ban fluoride, but that process takes years. Your kids, your family, they're drinking this water today. You need something that works now. And that's exactly what Cove Pure is. They're certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. Fluoride, THMs, pharmaceuticals, PFAs, anything that isn't water gets filtered out. And I love how easy Cove Pure is to use, how great the water tastes, and how much peace of mind it gives me knowing I'm in control of what my family drinks. So don't wait for the government to catch up. Take back control of your water, and in honor of America's 250th, Cove Pure is giving our audience $250 off if you use our link, covepure.com/poso. Don't wait. That's covepure.com/poso. So, folks, we saw, of course, the hearing there, Dr. Fauci, which it wasn't even the actual hearing that we would get because we thought we were going to get some answers. We thought that, okay, this guy's got his pardon, Mr. Pardon up there. He's all taken care of. So go ahead, tell us what happened. And he takes the fifth. And he takes the fifth because he doesn't want to commit perjury today. And why are you worried about committing perjury? You have a pardon, so just go ahead and tell us the truth. Go ahead and tell us what happened. And he wouldn't even do that. So I wanted to bring on someone who, of course, you all know, physician, inventor, scientist, author, speaker, bioethicist, journalist. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Robert Malone joins us now on Human Events. Dr. Malone, how are you?
I'm good, Jack. Thanks for having me on tonight. It's been quite a day.
No, I can imagine. I understand you're actually visiting Israel right now, and I appreciate that you're pulling double duty for us.
Yeah, but the events in the Senate have been amazing too. I managed to get a Substack out this morning, and I was just checking in with Christina Salazar at Rand Paul's office, one of his key aides on all this, about what all this means and what their next steps are going to be. I've written 2 essays about the Fauci situation and these upcoming hearings. And like you, I thought there was no way he was going to plead the fifth. But apparently he's done so clearly. He wouldn't even talk about the folder on his desk or the color of his shirt. But I think that the reason is because of the threat of lawsuits from the states. That gives him the cover to justify taking the fifth. But I hear from Christina that the plan is to move forward with contempt.
So hold on a second. I want to just make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You're saying that you're hearing there is a movement afoot from the United States Senate that Dr. Fauci will be held in contempt of Congress.
That's what I heard from Christina Salazar today, that's the plan moving forward. So this is breaking news, I guess, on your show.
This is because, and I want to be clear because this is what Steve Bannon went to jail for.
I specifically mentioned Steve and my good friend Peter Navarro, and the case of course, Dr. Navarro, yes, with him. So what Christina said was that's the plan, is to take this forward to a committee vote for contempt, and then normally that either has to go to the full Senate for a vote, but they believe that it can potentially go to the Senate president for a direct referral to the Department of Justice. That hasn't been tested in the past, but that's the current hypothesis about the path forward here.
Well, and okay, so I am seeing, of course, though, that we just checked in Dr. Paul's office. I've got 2 doctors here, is working to next week vote on a resolution to certify contempt for Dr. Fauci. So that'll take place here coming next week. And Dr. Malone, do you think that that's appropriate? And if so, why do you think it's appropriate for Dr. Fauci to be held in contempt like this?
Well, it's a minimal action. As you point out, it might raise the possibility of actually seeing him in jail. Clearly, the gentleman was unwilling to provide even a modicum of answer or information to a very legitimate Senate inquiry. He acted with, talk about contempt, he showed the Senate contempt, and he launched by attacking Senator Paul right off the bat, claiming that he was obsessed with Dr. Fauci. With all of the reveals, let's say, from the Fauci diaries that Senator Paul's office has provided to the rest of us, it's clear that Dr. Fauci is, let's say, very focused on his personal reputation. And we've learned now that he has capitalized on that he had 4 FTE, full-time employees, federally paid, searching for opportunities for him to get awards and recognition and speaking engagements that netted him up to almost $1 million from an Israeli university. He has profited immensely from the COVID crisis, as you correctly pointed out in your lead clips here. And his actions, as have been clearly documented by his diaries, show that he was duplicitous with the American public and with the administration that he was serving. This case that particularly has a burr under my saddle is that Dr. Fauci knew that his claims to Congress about this very high case fatality rate were false, and that in fact the severity of this disease was more akin to a more severe seasonal influenza outbreak. And these claims that he made that were not substantiated, that he knew were false, we know that from his own diaries. We know that from a publication, I think it was in the New England Journal of Medicine, that he co-authored. These claims of very high mortality rate was what was used to justify the school lockdowns, the distance rule, all the extreme measures that damaged small businesses, all the things that you listed in that cascade in your opening monologue. This has all been justified by false claims of very high mortality. And we now have the documentation that he knew full well that that was a lie when he was sharing it with the American public. If you're not mad as hell about what this man did to all of us, then you're not paying attention.
And it's something as well that I think people need to realize that this isn't just about, quote unquote, revenge or retribution or any of those things. It's about, number one, accountability for what happened, but also number two, preventing this from ever happening again, preventing the rule of, and it seems like to me as though he was running the government, putting these edicts out. People were, of course, we remember, reliant on his guidance. They were hanging off his every single word as if it was some sort of holy writ. And he seemed to be almost making it up as he was going along.
Well, he was. That's what we've learned. And more than that, he was manipulating, coordinating down to the level of CIA intelligence. In that clip in this reel that you have running, you see former CIA agent Jim Erdman directly behind Fauci's right shoulder. Jim is the one that testified in the Senate, as I recall, about Fauci's actions in basically stacking the CIA committee that reviewed the probability of this being an engineered pathogen and directly influenced their findings and outcome, and then lied about it. I mean, the lies are just amazing. They just pile on and pile on. But what we experienced over that, really, it's still ongoing. We are still operating under some of the clauses that were put in place having to do with the emergency use authorization that's still being used to justify ongoing protection of the manufacturers against liability claims from those that have been damaged. We still have the manipulations of information going on and failure to disclose and be transparent at both CDC and the FDA. This is not over. And the root of all of it, I mean, we've gone through a laundry list of bad actors, Klaus Schwab, we could name many different names, Bill Gates, etc. But Fauci has absolutely been at the center of this. You'll recall Scott Atlas came in at the request of the president to provide an independent point of view, and he basically got run out by Fauci and Birx. This is a conspiracy, and I think that is the best legal strategy here, is to approach it as a conspiracy, because that negates a lot of the different legal strategies that Fauci might be able to employ to wiggle out of this.
And that's where we need to be. We need to be talking about legal penalties, and I'm so glad that that's exactly where we are. Jack Posobiec, Dr. Malone, right back, Human Events Daily on Real America's Voice.
Hey there.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel and take Go Pills to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
Go Pills and Soldier Fuel locked in.
Go Pills are packed with neurotransmitter support. Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Mic on, lights up. Soldier Fuel keeps me dialed right in.
Both are used by the U.S. military every day.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
And they're now available to you.
This is huge.
Scan the QR codes below and order your supply today.
Hear that pop? So good.
Go to buysoldierfuel.com or search on Amazon.
This is performance fuel. Clean energy, sharp mind. That's how we do it at RAV.
Visit buygopills.com and get 15% off automatically.
Go Pills and Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Hi, my name's Paul Poyer. I'm Poyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
There are crowds, you remove yourself from very close contact. You socially distance yourself from your workplace by doing teleworking. You can socially distance yourself from people in social settings by not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, we are back live with Dr. Robert Malone, who's on here. And Dr. Malone, just let me ask you this in sort of a broad question. What's your biggest takeaway from all of the things that we've learned in not just the hearing where he refused to answer anything, the prizes where he was trying to get this, this prize money out, but even with the diaries and so much more that's come out in the lead up to this, You're Dr. Malone. You're looking at all of this. You're processing it. Give us the big picture takeaway that you've got from all of it.
Well, number one on the list of actions that need to be taken going forward is we need to put term limits on these high power, highly influential federal officials. Fauci should not have been allowed to burrow into the bureaucracy for 40 years. Dr. Fauci somehow does need to be held accountable, or this will continue to happen. And as you pointed out correctly in one of your earlier segments, the probability is that those that are on the other side of the political spectrum from us are likely to bring exactly this type of bureaucrat, scientist, politician into power again, whether or not it's Dr. Fauci. I hope that he is not available, I'll say it that way, if and when another Democratic administration comes to fore. But you're absolutely right. This is what these folks like are these bureaucrat administrators that act in consistent with collectivist strategies that involve centralized power. When you allow this kind of centralized power, this is exactly what you get. And the metaphors that you've used having to do with the former Soviet Union are entirely appropriate. This is what we've been dealing with. This man has stood over with basically his foot on the neck of me and every younger scientist in my generation through our entire careers. Fauci has controlled the access of funds. He's controlled what's allowed to be discussed. He's controlled what's allowed to be researched. He's controlled what hypotheses are allowed to be tested. He's controlled where the money goes. He has manipulated Congress. He's played them like a fiddle. He has come up with all kinds of creative strategies to manipulate the press. At one point, I did a count. He had over 40 full-time employees working directly for him in his press office, managing external press relations. That was opposed, as I recall, something like 10 FTE handling congressional affairs. He was a master manipulator of public opinion, and it was all centered around building his own legacy, his own wealth, his own power, his career. This can't be allowed to happen again. But as you point out, it is a pattern that we see repeatedly with our opposition when it gets in power. This is why we're seeing these bad actors in the deep state just burrowing in and doing everything they can to block the agenda of Secretary Kennedy and President Trump. And President Trump, frankly, has got to be allowed to have the power to fire people like this. Otherwise, this is just going to perpetuate forever.
No, it will perpetuate. And we have to understand some of the most horrifying events of human history have been done in the name of science. Lysenkoism in the Soviet Union, which led to massive famine, of course, directed famine in Ukraine, the Holodomor, the Great Leap Forward in China, where 50 million starved to death. Again, we were all told this was in the name of following the science, and these mass collectivized programs were pushed down on the people, and it led to tens of millions, 70 million people dead just there.
So this
70
is
million
another thing, Jack.
human beings.
Scientists are not the ones who should be making policy, full stop. Okay, this is a major issue. Elected officials are the ones that make policy. Scientists can advise on policy. They can help administer policy. But policy needs to be exclusively in the hands of elected officials that can be held accountable by the electorate. That is something that I am absolutely dug in on. And you see this kind of creep all the time. You know, we talk about Fauci, but we forget about Rochelle Walensky. She was just as bad. She stretched the truth and lied and manipulated all the way through her career. And it's, within CDC, the one I'm in the middle of a major book looking at this whole series of events titled The Grift. And the only one that comes out smelling good at all is Bob Redfield, who acted with integrity in the face of, immense odds. So Bob Redfield, I think, is a hero here. But the rest of them, we've got to stop this from happening again.
We certainly have to stop it from happening again. Dr. Malone, tell people where they can go. You're working on so much. You're putting out so much. You're obviously still analyzing this, as we all are. Tell people where they can go to get your Substacks. I know, and I'm sure that there is going to be so much more coming.
Thank you very much, Jack. So you can always find us at malone.news. Really easy to find. Substack. You can subscribe and get it free in your inbox, or you can pay us a minimal fee and help support the journalism that we do every day. And, of course, at R.W. Malone, MD on Truth Social and X.
All right, folks, make sure you're going to give him a follow because, look, we're in this mess. We can get out of it. We're going to get out of it if we focus on the truth. And by the way, it's not just enough to get the truth out. There must be accountability for what was done to the American people. And if I haven't said it before, I'll say it right now. I fully support the effort to hold Fauci in contempt of Congress and do absolutely endorse and support the idea of him serving prison time for what he has done. We'll be right back. Jack Posobiec, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice.
All right, you guys, listen, here's something I realized about my retirement account that honestly caught me.
Hey, Wayne Allen Root, America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific. But we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical.
I agree.
Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
In the safety and the efficacy of this vaccine, and I want to encourage everyone who has the opportunity to get vaccinated so that we can have a veil of protection over this country that would end this pandemic.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec back live, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. Ladies and gentlemen, every day, more and more of our personal information ends up online than most people realize. Your name, your home address, your phone number, your family members, old addresses, email addresses, even information from past data breaches is often just a few clicks away. Hundreds of data broker websites collect and publish that information, and unless you take action, it stays there. Some with bad intentions can use those details to piece together where you live, who you're related to, and other personal information. If you are politically active, if you work in the media, or you simply value your family's privacy, it's worth taking seriously. And that is where Patriot Protect comes in. Patriot Protect works to remove your personal information from data broker sites before the wrong people can use it. Instead of waiting until after you've become a victim, they help make you much harder to find in the first place. A single phone scam or identity theft incident can cost thousands of dollars. Protecting yourself is protecting yourself is a lot less expensive. Go to patriot-protect.com/POSO. Use promo code POSO to save 15%. Take control of your privacy, add some digital camouflage to your life, and make yourself much harder to find online. All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, we're back. And someone I know who has been, that was watching and live tweeting the Fauci hearing, as well as texting with me throughout the entire thing, is, of course, our great editor-in-chief of Human Events and the Post-Millennial. It's Libby Emmons. Libby, how are you?
I'm good, Jack. Thanks so much.
So Libby, I mean, let's get right to it. That we've got an action item here, and we could sit there and grouse about how odious his behavior was at the hearing, but Senator Rand Paul is now putting forward a motion. There'll be a vote next week for contempt of Congress of Anthony Fauci. Number one, do you support this? And number two, if so, why?
Yes, I do support this, and I will tell you why. Because Dr. Fauci was given a blanket pardon by the Biden administration. Joe Biden's auto pen told him that he was not going to be held liable for any crimes that he may have committed. It didn't even list crimes. And once you are pardoned, you are not entitled to take the fifth. And that's something that Senator Josh Hawley pointed out during these hearings, saying that per a case from 1896, the Supreme Court said that if you are granted a pardon, the Fifth Amendment no longer applies to you because you can't be prosecuted for anything that you say. And of course, the Fifth Amendment says that you refuse to speak because you don't want to self-incriminate yourself. But that doesn't apply here because he can't really incriminate himself because he's already been pardoned.
Right. So my understanding was that because I thought about that, that was my first inkling. My first thought, just was, wait a minute. I thought he, didn't have the Fifth Amendment because of the pardon. But then I realized he's not taking the Fifth because of his past behavior. He's taking it because he's worried about getting caught in a perjury trap today, which means, pardon me, it means if he isn't going to tell the truth today, or perhaps he's going to say something that doesn't comport with whatever testimony he gave the last time he testified to Congress, which, of course, James Comey, I will always be very honored that years ago, one of the first things that I blew up for on Twitter was catching James Comey doing just that in the General Flynn case, and Rush Limbaugh actually read it out on air, and it was just incredible to see I should say here, I guess, because it was a radio show, but just always been such a role model that Rush Limbaugh was for me. But Libby, let's take it back on a broader scale. Mm-hmm. We know what Dr. Fauci did to this country. We now know that he knew the truth in those diaries. He was writing a much smaller death count that he would then come out and testify to before Congress. He knew all of the injustices that were occurring around the country. And you don't see anything in those diaries where he's saying, oh, my gosh, we just have to push through this to save America. He's not doing that at all. He was doing it to further his own personal ambitions. He was doing it to further his own bank account, and he was doing it to raise his own star.
Yes, that's exactly right. He was doing this in order to make himself look really good. We saw everything that he was saying about the press, how enamored he was with the attention that he was getting, not just in the United States, but globally. He was so impressed with this. He loved the stardom. He loved everybody paying so much attention to him. And also, as he said today in the Senate, he said that the diaries were released to humiliate him, which means that he recognizes how insane and crazy he sounded by just going on and praising himself. Jack, you do a lot of media appearances, and what Fauci was doing in his diaries was writing down repeatedly every appearance that he had, not just to keep track of what he was scheduled to do, but to make sure that he had a record of everything he had done. And I think that's a little backed as well, if you look at it. And Josh Hawley also called him out and said specifically that what he was doing and the reason that he was pleading the Fifth Amendment in this case was because he had absolutely no respect for these proceedings. And that's something that he made clear as well.
No, and Libby, this is a huge problem, and I know it's something you've talked about for years, that these scientists were hiding behind this idea that they themselves were, quote unquote, the science. Now, we as normal people know that that's actually not how science works, but I keep coming back to this. If the Democrats were to get back in power, this is exactly the type of people that they would put in charge again. They would probably bring back Anthony Fauci if they could, right? They'd make it. The Democrats would put Anthony Fauci in charge of Health and Human Services. They'd make him the Secretary of Health. Do people understand what the stakes are here? This is how bad it could be if the Democrats get back in power. And by the way, that means they'll be throwing us in the gulags without even a trial. They'll say, oh, it's just for your medical good. And how do I know they're going to do it? Because they already did it once.
Yep, they did already do it once, and you saw what they did to our kids. They shut down these schools, and I remember during COVID, I was reaching out to parents all across the country from Utah, Washington, Oregon, New York, California, Texas, all over the place, talking to moms and dads about the impact of the school closures on their children. And this was absolutely devastating. Years of learning were lost, not just a couple of semesters. These learning losses compounded over the years, and Fauci went on and was saying how, he wasn't the one who was saying schools should be closed. And then we look in his diaries and we see how pleased he is at the influence that he had over the de Blasio administration in New York City to shut down schools, and also over Gavin Newsom's California, telling them to shut down schools. And he said in his diaries that both of these administrations took what he had to say on TV into account, and when they decided to close these schools. And then he talks about how difficult it was to get the country back open. And he wasn't really concerned with our kids at all. He was telling us to stay away from each other during Thanksgiving. He was telling families not to gather. And we see this. We see how our kids ended up turning online, not just for education, but for recreation, and the damage that has done to a generation of kids who now don't know how to socialize and spend all of their time talking online and being influenced by weird groomers and trans things. All of that is related, and it's all because Fauci encouraged schools to shut down. He even said that Ron DeSantis was a problem for not keeping all of the schools closed. And as we know, Florida did a lot better.
No, it's not. And by the way, there's videos that have been coming out that people have been reposting. And I think it's very important, actually. I think it's very important that as hard as it is to kind of remember how horrifying this was, we need to. And in fact, there should be, in the same way that we had Uwe Boll on recently with the Citizen Vigilante movie, I would love to see a film that shows a family going through what they went through with, with COVID. Let's see movies about it. Let's see movies where a child has a vaccine injury. Or you could make it like a situation where there's like snippets and vignettes that follows a couple different families in different parts of the country, something like that, to just put it on the map that we can go to people and say, hey, this this is all based on true stories. This all happened.
Yeah.
It was all
and
real.
I have some of these true stories. There was a mom that I always think of and that I keep in my prayers, she was from, I think it was either Oregon or Washington, they're very similar, but her son had been involved in athletics. That was his whole world. That was his friends, his social group. That was everything. He wasn't super academically inclined. He really showed up to school to do the sports. And when COVID shut down his school, he was absolutely miserable. He didn't know what to do with himself. And she eventually and her husband decided, she's going to take her son and move down to Texas where the schools were open so that he could continue to play sports. And her husband stayed up in, the Pacific Northwest with their other children to run their business. And her son eventually revealed to her that that he was going to take his own life.
Libby, we got to make this a movie. Where people can go to follow you, Libby?
You can find me on Twitter at Libby Emmons, and of course, check out the Post-Millennial and HumanEvents.com.
God bless, Libby. Thanks so much. Right back. Human Events, Real America's Voice.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it or you can't afford?
Hey, Wayne Island Root, America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific, but we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical.
I agree.
Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
I think Josh Shapiro would be the vice presidential nominee if it wasn't for Jack Posobiec. And that is, I'm being honest.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, we're back live here, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. And I want to get on now because another one of these harrowing stories has taken place out in my own home state of Allegheny County, PA. 35 homeowners have been affected, 43 property deeds. 2 men out of Pittsburgh have been charged in what looks to me to be a home title theft type scheme. And so we've got Natalie Dominguez here for us to talk about this. She's, of course, from Home Title Lock and is a title theft education expert. Natalie, how are you?
Hi, Jack. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Well, doing well, but of course I hate seeing stories like this yet again, and I certainly hate even more when it's in my own home state. Walk us through what happened here in Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh is located.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually the second or third report that we've seen just over the last couple of weeks. The first fraud came to light after a settlement company received a call from a homeowner that was trying to refinance. And they discovered during that process that his name was no longer on the deed. A second instance, I have the report in front of me, Richard Self discovered the fraud when he was working with a realtor to kind of decide what to do with a family property that he wanted to leave to his grandkids. And when they were doing some research, they again found that his name was no longer in his property. So what's been happening is over the last, it's been 6+ months this has been going on, but what started as a couple of instances is now this full-blown investigation where 43 properties, dozens of homeowners are being affected, and they keep finding more and more and more. And they finally caught the guy. And get this, the guy goes, "Oh no, that's not me. Someone's stolen my identity. I didn't file any of that paperwork." And obviously they were able to kind of prove that wasn't true. And then he goes, "No, yeah, you're right. It was me. I just wanted to fix up these houses and make my community better," because a lot of them were either vacant property or properties that were not really being watched. And I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. But the scary thing is 43 properties were affected, and none of the homeowners knew about it until they were actually doing something that required them to look at their title. I think that's the scary thing here.
And so they weren't looking at the title, and of course they had no way of being, receiving an alert about this. And I'm looking at the files right now as well. And so how was it then that the fraud was directly discovered? I guess it was a real estate agent?
Yeah, so basically it was just people that happened to be in situations where they had to do some sort of title search to look at the property information. Because for any of you watching, I'm not sure if you realize, but all of your property records are public record by law. So all of this information is completely accessible. I'd say probably 95% of it completely available via the web. Some of the documents you can even see signatures, and that's really scary. So they were doing public title searches with, one was a realtor they were working with. The other one looks like it was a settlement company. The homeowner was trying to refinance, and they kind of just stumbled across it. But keep in mind, in order for any of this to take place, the criminal that's doing this has to actually go to the county recorder's office. Well, actually, you know what? I should have looked. In Pennsylvania, you might be able to do it online. In some places, like in Florida, you can actually do this without even going anywhere in person, which is terrifying to me. But generally, they're going to go through and they're going to get this processed legally on paper. And that's the scary part. There's no checks and balances. This guy, if you look at the report, this guy literally bought notary stamps on that big online retailer that we have all learned not to live without. Most people don't know. That's where all the other notaries that are doing it legally get their stamps. You can just get them online. There's no authentication process. There's not a big list that they have to verify. Just fill out the document properly, notary stamp on it, and a signature. And as long as it's filled out properly, the county has to take it. The recorder's office has to take it legally, even if they think it's a scam, which is terrifying. So
they have to take it, and that's obviously something. And I remember the last time you and I were on, we were saying that this is potentially something that states could look at for a possible legal reform. And if state legislators were to take that up, that that would obviously be something, because it seems to me that this title theft is on the rise. It just seems like it's on the rise. Oh, and absolutely. People need. I would love to see legislators, absolutely, in my home state, obviously. Harrisburg, and by the way, if Governor Josh Shapiro said that he wanted to do that, and he and I are, let's just say that we're at odds on a variety of things. But if he were to endorse that, then I would firmly support it. So let's see if we can bury the hatchet and do something good for homeowners. But if Josh Shapiro doesn't want to go down that road and doesn't use this case as an example to do so, walk us through what other folks in Pennsylvania or just anywhere in the country can do so that their homes, and for many people, their net worth is tied directly to their homes. They don't get caught up in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing is for you to monitor your property. I have seen online a couple people go, "Oh, you can do this for free at your county," and some you can. About 10% of these recorders' offices in the U.S., which is not very much, do offer county alerts. But then we see these crazy things happening, like in Tennessee, where a bunch of people were notified for properties that weren't even theirs. So we obviously know they don't have the greatest system kind of available. But the thing is, even if you did sign up for some free alerts, or if you signed up for monitoring, what are you going to do after the fact, right? Because if we look at this case, so Richard Self, the man that was working with the realtor, the report actually talks about how it took him months and months and months, and he was finally able to get the property restored into his name, but he had to go through the civil process. He had to hire a lawyer. He had to pay thousands in legal fees and endure all this emotional stress that you'd think they wouldn't have to do because someone is, being arrested and investigated. But unfortunately, currently, you talk about legislation changes. This is still a separate process. The only legislation changes that we're seeing are they're actually making it a crime. Like in New York, it actually is felony grand larceny now when you do this. Before it wasn't. But in most places, it's still a completely separate process. So you as the homeowner need to do what you need to do to protect yourself. So it's not just monitoring alerts. And this is what we do at Home Title Lock and why we do what we do. We don't want to just say, hey, cool, we're going to monitor your title and we're going to make sure we let you know if fraud happens, because we can't stop it. The only people that can stop it is the government, and they're not doing it. But what we can do is we can be there to help you clean up the mess. We're going to spend up to $1 million if you're a victim of fraud to go through the entire legal process with you and get your title restored and get everything taken care of. And this includes, if they sell your house behind your back before you find out about it and they go through that process, we're going to go through the legal process to get everything restored back to the way it was before. Because most people don't have $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 just sitting in their pocket ready to pay a lawyer to fight this. Well, that's what we do at Home Title Lock.
And that's exactly right. And that's why, we've got, of course, HometitleLock.com, promo code POSO. Natalie Dominguez, tell people if they go to HometitleLock.com and they use promo code POSO, what can they get available there? And by the way, starting completely for free.
Yeah, completely for free, no risk. You're going to get 14 days for free. It's a free trial. You're going to get your login. You're going to be able to get a free title history report. And this is important because when was the last time you checked to make sure your title is still in your home? The two people that kicked off this investigation would have never known had they not been doing a search. So you're going to get a free title history report. You can look over all the info, all the details. There's records that will pop up that you'll be able to see. You're going to get that free trial. You can cancel anytime. It's completely free to you. And also you get a lot of great resources. We have articles, we have news stories on there. You can contact our team via phone. There's a chat if you're not feeling too phone chatty. We all know how most of us don't like having to be on the phone all day. But there's a lot of resources available for you guys. HometitleLock.com, promo code POSO. You're going to get 14 days free, completely risk-free. At least get that peace of mind. It's free. Why not?
And it's really as simple as that. And folks, look, we've, like if you've got a family, if you've got your financial wealth tied up in that, that's absolutely something you need to dig into.
This is Fubo. It's your way to watch ESPN and other top sports networks.
Hey, Wayne Allen Root, America Speaks. You call in and we talk about it. Your opinions, your comments, your questions. How do you call in? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. The show airs at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. Pacific. But we tape it at 6 p.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So you call in at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you, and it airs that night at midnight. The phone number again, 800-347-ROOT. That number is 24/7. You can leave voicemails. We play your voicemails on the air as well.
Hey, Wayne, what do you think about Obama?
He was a communist, socialist, Marxist radical. I agree. Or you can email me, wayneroot@gmail.com. I'll read your email live on the air with your comments or questions. America Speaks.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and